had a little bit of an aviation bug in my head, and when the Army offered it to me, I was sold. I went to scratch my chest and I couldn't feel it, it was numb. Scratch my belly was numb, scratch my legs, they were numb. It's very, 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 very uncommon. The doctor said I had a better chance of getting struck by lightning twice than going through something like that. We don't ever want to hear you say, I can't. We're gonna teach you how to do this and you're gonna get good at it.
For the win. Yes, he's got a 10!
My name is Jason Tabansky. I am a retired Army Staff Sergeant. I served from 2001 through 2016. I suffered a spinal cord injury in 2015 that put me in a wheelchair. I am now a Team USA Paralympic archer, a gold medalist from Paris 2024.
America is at war.
I was born in Brownsville, Texas. That is as South Texas as you can get. Like, it's on the border with Mexico. Half my life in Mexico, half my life in Texas. I grew up with a single mother, playing drums, bass, guitar, piano, and then I also played sports. I played football, baseball, golf, playing music in church, but then on the side I also played rock music. I played a little bit of country music, but obviously we played a lot of Tejano music and a lot of Spanish music, so just a big part of our life. I didn't see myself going to college. I wasn't the best in school, not because I wasn't smart enough, I just didn't like it. I didn't study, I didn't do homework, but I could ace a test. And my cousin had been talking to this Marine recruiter. Well, the Marine recruiter comes over to the house and my cousin freaked out. He went and hid. And I get stuck talking to this guy, so he says, come by the recruiting office, take a practice test. So I think I scored like a 70 something. And I'm thinking I can get whatever job I want in the Marine Corps. And he's talking to me about being infantry. And I was like, that doesn't sound like something I want to do. Walked out of the Marine Corps recruiting office.
To most people, this is just a uniform. But to me, it's something more. That's the pride of being a soldier in the U.S. Army.
I was in first block in high school. I was in first block class, and the Army recruiter showed up to do a little demonstration. And we're sitting there watching. There's a couple guys driving a Humvee around, and I remember these dudes were airborne guys that were wearing their maroon berets. And the Army guy's like, so what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I went to the Marine Corps. I took a practice test. He goes, what did you score? I said, I scored like a 70 something. He said, dude, you can do whatever you want in the Army. Infantry, you can do medicine, you can do this, you can do aviation mechanics. Aviation is something that had always kind of piqued my interest. I came to San Antonio for MEPS. I go through my physical, go through my enlistment, and I remember sitting there with the career counselor, and we're looking at all these jobs that are opening up for aviation. And I said, look, I graduate in May. I want to spend the summer at home. What do you have where I can report to boot camp in like August? And she goes, right here, 67 uniform. It's like, all right, I'll take it. Cool. Comes with $3,000 bonus. Man, at that time, I was 17 thinking 3,000 bucks in my paycheck. Let's go. So get back home, go talk to my recruiter. I was like, hey man, I'm gonna be a 67 uniform. What the hell is that? He goes, oh, you're gonna be a Chinook mechanic. What's a Chinook? He showed me a picture of it. I was like, okay, cool. Aviation it is.
Military occupational specialty, avionic mechanic. To make sure that the communications, navigation, and flight control systems are working properly, soldiers in this MOS repair and maintain them in all types of Army aircraft.
My boot camp was kind of interesting because I joined in August of 2001 and I joined in peacetime. So here we are going into phase 2. We're all laying on our bellies trying to balance quarters on the end of our rifles. When all of a sudden drill sergeants are running around picking people, hey, go put this bleacher here, block this road, block that road. Have no idea what's going on. About 4 hours later, our battalion sergeant major comes through and he let us know that 2 airplanes had hit the Twin Towers and that they had collapsed. So we switched overnight from a peacetime kind of training army into we're about to go to war. By the time we graduated basic training, everybody was in that mindset of we're going to get deployed as soon as we get to our units. And we're in Afghanistan in August. Obviously, Chinooks are big helicopters, so we do a lot of maintenance on them. My job in Afghanistan, I was in a maintenance-only company. So whenever the aircraft had their scheduled maintenance, like every 25 hours of flight time, you had to do an inspection every 50 hours in 25-hour increments, and then you got to major inspections like 100 hours, 200 hours, where we had to tear these aircraft completely down, build them back up again. We wanted to get these scheduled maintenances done as fast as possible. We got so good at it that a scheduled 200-hour maintenance stateside would take 30 to 45 days. We were knocking them out in 7 days in Afghanistan. We were working with a civilian counterpart. I mean, these old guys that had been around working since Vietnam, they taught us all the ins and outs. So when we got home from Afghanistan, I think that our level of mechanical expertise was a lot higher than some of our counterparts that had stayed behind. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. We got to go on flights with some of the guys that would come over, befriend us from the flight companies. They'd say, hey, you worked on my aircraft. How about you go fly with me? Like, okay. Going on that flight really got me hooked. And that's where my mindset changed from, I just want to be a mechanic, to I want to be a crew member. I want to fly. I don't want to just sit on the ground. This is what I joined for. This is what I want to do. I started kind of weaseling my way into all these flights. I started, just shadowing the crew members. They saw that I was doing good work. They would take me on all the test flights, started getting to know the pilots. I do every single test flight in Iraq for that deployment, get back to Fort Hood, and I was done with Fort Hood. I wanted to get out of there. Called branch. I asked for a reassignment. The only place that they had that I wanted to go to was Korea. Other than that, they were going to send me to Kansas or Fort Drum, or some other crappy place. So I chose Korea, and by the time I got to Korea, I was 100% convinced I am never going back to a maintenance company. I want to go to a flight company. So I show up to Camp Humphreys, Korea, and we're all lined up in formation, and here comes a flight platoon sergeant yelling my name. Who's Sergeant Tabansky? I was like, that's me. It's like, do you realize how much shit you caused? Like, I do, but I am not going back to a maintenance company. So that was the start of my actual flight career in the Army, was in Korea. In a Chinook, you start off as a crew chief, which is like the lowest level crew member. You learn how to do all the basic flight tasks, all the basic flight maintenance that you have to do, pre-flights, daily inspections, things like that. As you progress and you gain more experience, then you become a flight engineer. So Chinooks fly with 2 crew members in the back, mainly 2 pilots in the controls, one in the jump seat. Flight engineer is the second in command of the whole aircraft. But when you become a flight engineer, your responsibility goes up a whole lot more, because you are responsible for the crew chief, you're responsible for the cargo, for the passengers, for the aircraft. You have to make sure that everything is done before that aircraft even starts up and takes off. So I did gain a lot of experience in Korea. I was a very, very good crew chief. After my two-year assignment to Korea, I went to Fort Rucker, Alabama, to where people go to flight school. I remember being at Fort Rucker for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I got my flight evaluation to become a flight engineer. And that's where everything took off. We get to Germany in January of 2012. We're still doing a lot of training. We're doing gunneries, we're doing flight training. We had brand new aircraft and wound up deploying to Afghanistan again in May of 2012. When I get out to Afghanistan, now my role is completely different than my first time. I'm actually flying all the missions that I used to watch the guys do. That was a really cool deployment. I got to work with a lot of really awesome people. Worked a lot with MARSOC guys out of Camp Stone and down in Farah. Worked with a lot of ODA guys. We did a lot of Tier 1 operations out there. Got back in 2013. I was home for probably about a year and a half before we went to London. They wanted the 2 most experienced guys in the company to prep an aircraft and take it to London, because we're going to be doing an exposition at this massive military expo, and we're basically trying to sell Chinooks to the rest of the world. We were just putting the aircraft to bed after showcasing it all day. It started drizzling a little bit, so I wanted to make sure that everything was covered up. I go up top, putting ropes, covers, and I'm climbing down the aircraft just like I've done probably millions of times by this point. I was in such a rush to get off that I missed the last step and kind of slid down, landed on my feet, but on the way down I had held on to one of the handholds and just kind of put a strain on my shoulder, and it just traveled up my neck. Didn't feel no pain until I woke up the next morning. I felt sore, just what I was expecting, but it was a different type of sore. It just wouldn't go away. I went and saw the British Expo. They had some physical therapists out there, and I was like, hey man, my shoulder's hurting. I had this happen to me yesterday. Messed around with it. He said, yeah, it feels kind of tight. You might have like a strained muscle or something like that. It's just take some Tylenol. You should be fine. And yeah, I was fine. But on the ride home, all of a sudden it felt like I had gotten stabbed in the back just out of the blue. And I remember sitting in a cab and I almost jumped out of the cab because I started feeling nauseous. It hurt so bad. So it progressed from that day to the next day. I had really, really bad neck pain where I couldn't turn my head. So I go to the ER. So they're like, all right, let's take an x-ray. The x-ray's clean. So they gave me their version of ibuprofen and a little bit higher dose, like a 600 milligram Tylenol. Yeah, that helped a little bit with the pain. But the next day I wake up and now I'm frozen from my waist up. I couldn't sit up in bed, so I asked my roommate, I'm like, dude, give me a hand, let me get out of bed. As soon as I stood up, I was down on my knees. It just hurt so bad. I said, you know what, I'm not messing around. I'm gonna call an ambulance and get them to take me to the hospital again. You go back, let the pilots know what's going on, and I'll keep you guys posted. I get seen again, and I remember the doctor just kind of like feeling around. He said, yeah, you've got it feels like tissue damage. Whenever you get back to Germany, you need to go see your PCM and get imaging or anything like that. I said, no, I need an MRI now. He said, no, you don't really need it now. You can wait. We're gonna give you some Valium and that's gonna loosen you up and you're gonna be fine. I don't know what the problem was that I couldn't get an MRI, but I didn't. I go back to my hotel room that night, take my pills, felt really good. The pain was gone. Everything felt loose. I was fine. I ordered some room service, packed my bags because we were leaving in 2 days, and I went to bed. I remember waking up, going to the bathroom, but I was feeling kind of groggy, kind of heavy, like my legs were feeling heavy. All I could think of was, man, these are good, some good drugs. I've never had this before, but I'd go to sleep, and I woke up at, I think it was like 3:34 is what I can remember. And I went to scratch my chest and I couldn't feel it, it was numb. Scratch my belly, was numb. Scratch my legs, they were numb. And I don't remember if I called or texted my wife, but I got a message out to her saying, hey, this is happening. I think I'm calling an ambulance because I might be having a bad reaction to the medication that they gave me. And just my luck, I got probably one of the worst ambulance crews I ever had in my life. The guy comes in right off the bat and looks at me and goes, how much of that have you drank? And my roommate had left one of those ready-made Jack and Coke cans sitting on my counter. I said, look, man, I haven't had a drink in like 4 days now. I've been in pain and doing all this going through all this issues with my neck and my back. I haven't had a drop. He said, well, I don't believe you. I'm not gonna hurt my back helping you out, so go ahead and get into this chair. They had brought a wheelchair, not a gurney. I sat up in bed and all I could do was scoot. So I started scooting down the bed. It must have taken me an hour to get from where I was to get into that chair, because as I was scooting, I started getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually I lost my core function. And then by the time I finally jumped in the chair, I had lost my legs. I was completely paralyzed from that point on. Get into the ambulance, go back to the same hospital, and chief nurse that was there, she's getting her report from the ambulance crew, and he's telling her, you know, that I'm such and such age, I'm drunk, and I'm claiming to be this and that, and I'm in the hallway screaming, calling the guy a liar and all kinds of other stuff. The head doctor that was in charge that night heard me screaming and came back and over and said, what's going on? So I'm trying to tell him what's going on, like, hey, look, I can't move my legs, I can't feel my body, my hands are getting weaker, and he saw the seriousness in my face and just went and ripped them apart. Got me into a CT scan, came back clean, go into an MRI, and that's when everybody kind of had that light bulb go off in their head. The imaging, it seemed like I had a hemorrhage going on from the middle of my neck to like right in between my shoulder blades. I get someone come over and say, hey, we're transferring you over to a neuro hospital. There's going to be a team there waiting for you. They're going to go in, they're going to do surgery on your spine and see what's going on in your neck and clean everything up, and you'll be fine, you'll be good in no time. It should be like 3-hour surgery. I woke up 8.5, 9 hours later, and the doctor came over and said, hey, look, it was a lot more serious than what we thought. You actually had an abscess in your spinal cord that compressed your cord from C4, which is right at the middle of your neck, down to T4, which is right below your shoulder blades. He said, we don't know what this is, but we took a piece of it, we sent it to the lab, and we're gonna figure out what it is. You had an abscess made up of strep sitting in your neck. He said, whatever you did to your shoulder when you fell from that aircraft initiated an inflammatory response, almost like when you pinch yourself, and this thing just started growing in your neck. He said, but you're really lucky because you were very, very close to paralyzing your C3, which would have meant your lungs stopped working and you would have just suffocated in your room by yourself. And I just remember looking at him and said, thanks, Doc, you saved my life. It's very, 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 very uncommon. I think the doctor said I had a better chance of getting struck by lightning twice than going through something like that. When the doctor came over and tried to give me a prognosis, he couldn't. I don't know what your outcome's gonna be. He said, I'm not telling you that you're gonna be up and walking again in the next 6 months. I'm not telling you you're not gonna be up and walking in the next 6 months or 6 years or whatever. But he did say, Jason, your spinal cord heals at about 0.5 millimeter a month, and you had about 18 inches of damage. So it's gonna take a long time for you to regain, and you might regain a lot, or you might not regain anything. He said, the one thing I will tell you is you're probably not gonna be running a marathon. My biggest fear was I didn't have my hands. I didn't have any hand function or anything like that. My biggest fear was not being able to play music again, not being able to do some of the things that I really, really enjoyed. Obviously, I wanted to get back on my feet and be able to walk and do everything 100% the way I used to do it. But I was making my peace with, I might not do that again, but if I could just please have my hands back, that would make it a little bit better.
The realization of what really was happening with his body when we had some kind of determination, some kind of prognosis of what was going to happen to him. And the news was devastating. And all I could think of was he might not be able to play drums ever again. I arrived at his bedside. I let him know that everything was going to be okay, and we really, from then on, we focused on having a positive mindset. We really didn't know what was going to entail with all of his rehab journey. We had no idea that there was going to be occupational therapy or physical therapy involved. We didn't really have anybody that was holding our hand and explaining what our future was going to be like. It wasn't until they moved him from Bethesda after 3 weeks to the spinal cord injury unit at the Audie Murphy VA Hospital here in San Antonio that we got a clear-cut itinerary of how this was going to work, how we were going to be able to move forward, and just learning about all of these little daily living activities that Jason was going to make his daily goals. And once he was able to accomplish those on his own or with little help, then he would be able to start a new life living on his own out of the hospital. We grew together in knowledge because we both did not know what a spinal cord injury was and everything that is involved. It had its challenges, and it took every little bit of patience that both of us had almost every day, but we made through it, and I think we became stronger in the end because we went through this challenge together.
You know, she had to learn a lot from those first days. One of the craziest things was her having to shave my face You know, she was very nervous to do it. Obviously, I was very nervous for that. Helping me brush my teeth. But, you know, we did all that together, and she was very supportive from day one. I knew that I was going to be okay because I had her by my side, and, you know, I could lean on her and she could lean on me, and we were going to get through this together.
So one of the main reasons that I come to physical therapy is when I jump into this chair, you'll see that my legs shake a lot. That's because my hips are super tight from sitting in my chair for 14 hours a day.
Getting my hands back was a very, very slow process. I had an hour of OT every single day for 5 months. Every single day we were working on just normal movement, doing this, and then it progressed to doing different resistance bands, different resistance like clothespins that they have. And 7 months later, I was able to finally start moving all my fingers, started gripping things a little bit better, started moving around and things like that. So I still have an impairment in this hand. My last 3 fingers are very weak, and that's just from the damage that went on this right side. I wound up retiring in October 28th of 2016. My career was over, that I was going to start going through retirement and separation process. That, I think, was harder for me to come to terms with than the whole paralysis thing, because I was in love with my career. I mean, I had a fun job. I had great people to work with. We got to travel and see the world and do a whole lot of things. I had a very, very fulfilling life with my career, and now it's gone. It was hard. It was really, really hard for me to come to terms with. I'm so close to retiring too. I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason, and everything happens at the right time. Here at the Audie Murphy VA, every Friday morning from 9 to 12, they have air rifle shooting. I found an attraction to it because, you know, it's shooting sports. I'm used to it with the military. Everybody's getting ready and practicing for this event called the National Veterans Wheelchair Games. And you get to compete in a whole bunch of different adaptive sports. So obviously I picked air rifle because I've been doing it. Then I picked bowling. Trap shooting was my third one because I love shooting skeet. I think I did 9-ball. I was having trouble picking a 5th one. He goes, "Why don't you try archery?" And I said, "Archery? What the hell am I gonna do with that? I'm in a wheelchair. I can't shoot a bow." So 2 guys that were sitting there that have been around for a while, they kind of looked at me and they go, "Bro, we don't ever want to hear you say, 'I can't.' We're gonna teach you how to do this, and you're gonna get good at it." I was really weak at that time. I was very fresh in my injury. Couldn't pull my bow back. One of the other guys that had been there for a while, he's actually a 5-time Paralympian and is in the Hall of Fame for Paralympic athletes. His name's Gabe DeLeon. He had a bow. He lets me borrow this bow, got it set down to the poundage that I needed. I think I practiced like 3 or 4 times. Went out to Salt Lake City to the Veterans Wheelchair Games, and I wound up winning my division in archery. I was like, you know what, this is something I really enjoyed. Let's try it again. We had the Valor Games in September that year. So I signed up for that, went and did it, and I won my division again. I told my wife, you know what, I think archery is what I want to do. In 2017, I met Scott Hamlin, who's now one of my best friends and a coach. He owned a shop here in Bernie named Leading Edge Archery.
Hey guys.
7 years ago, 8 years ago now, Jason rolled into my shop and tried out a couple of bows and said that he wanted to become a top-level archer and shoot for Team USA. I hear that 5 times a week from other customers. So I tempered that conversation, said, hey man, if you're serious, come back and see me, we'll get you set up. And I'll tell you, Jason did exactly that. He's what I call a part of the 1%er. So I was there from the very beginning, helping him start off with a small little bow that pulled, I think, less than 30 pounds. It was made for a child for the most part, to where he's now shooting an adult-sized bow, an able-bodied type bow, at the highest level of the sport. You know, and it's been amazing to be a part of that journey with him for sure. Coaching Jason for 7 or 8 years now, I got to learn. It was a journey for both of us. I had not worked with anybody in his situation before. So Jason, I'll never forget, one of the key things he told me to look for as a coach if I wanted to duplicate what he feels and what he goes through, is to sit on a stool and take my feet off the ground and then do what he does. So I did. I grabbed my bow, I put my feet up off the ground on a stool and drew back and shot, and it was mind-boggling how hard it was. You take away the base of an athlete, it becomes extremely difficult to do what you need to do. Even from the weight training, when we were training with the weights and the conditioning, I had developed a lot of weight training programs for him that had to do with me sitting on a stool and doing lat pulls with my feet off the ground to create balance points and what he needed, which ended up being awesome because I think I picked up and learned a lot along with him. And so now I think I can coach anybody in his situation. But the big thing is the core. Taking away the legs and the feet and the core muscles in the gut are all integral. They're the base of all archery. And now Jason doesn't have that. How do we duplicate that in the chair? We've come up with a lot of cool things, even to the point I've designed a lot of things to help him. Wedges under his butt to get him in a certain position where I want him. We call it the slouch, him in a chair. All the things that an able-bodied athlete will never have to deal with. We have to modify all those things for him or anybody in his situation. And I'll tell you, it's been a great learning process as we have developed those things.
By the time COVID came and shut everything down, I had nothing else to do. So we set the target up in the backyard, and I would go out there and just dump arrows into this thing for, 4 or 5 hours a day. Because of my injury, I can't regulate body temperature. I can't sweat. When it gets really hot, I can overheat really quick. But I decided I was gonna go out there and I was gonna heat train. I was gonna make my body withstand the Texas heat the best I could. Get to the point where I was getting ready to pass out, go back inside, eat some ice, drink some water, cool down, go back outside, shoot some more. And I did that for, probably 4 or 5 months. That was my preparation for Tokyo. Unfortunately, Tokyo didn't happen for me. I got back into the whole USA Archery, World Archery game without even knowing. I qualified to make the team to go to the Pan American Championships in November of 2022. Went down there, won that. That gave me a slot to go back to Chile the next year for the Pan American Games. So now I'm prepping for all this stuff. I didn't find out that I was going to Paris until 6 weeks prior. That was my oh shit moment. I really, 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 really need to practice even harder. Those 6 weeks were completely different than what I did my whole life prior. I was shooting close to 300 arrows a day, but I was also doing a lot of mental training. I would spend a lot of time listening to books that talked about how to control your mind, how to control your emotions. I was talking to a mental coach, I was talking to a sports psychologist. Fly out to Paris, go to the Olympic Village. Holy crap, here I am. I've worked so hard to be here, and now I'm finally here. Do my 72 arrow qualification. Did really well out there. Went to bed, woke up at 5 o'clock, got ready, jumped on the bus at 6:30, and we rolled out to the venue. Didn't even think about breakfast, didn't think about anything. My mind was set on the field. I wanted to go out there and just give it my best.
And out come the two archers, Eugenio Santana Franco of Brazil up against Jason Tabansky of the United States.
Get out there on that first match, and everything just felt great. But as soon as that buzzer rang, my focus was on that target. And I was imagining that I was just shooting in my driveway.
With an arrow to spare. Finish with a perfect score. Yes!
I wound up winning that match by 17 points. Who's my opponent for the next one? Oh, you're shooting against David from Czech Republic on the next one. Awesome.
Here come the two archers for this match. David Drohonensky of Czechia and Jason Tabansky of the United States.
I think we both shot close to the same. He was up by 1 point.
Nice and relaxed and comfortable, showing no signs of getting nervous or anxious.
And then after that, I got in a groove.
Gotta believe in himself.
Yeah, he's got it done here. Arrow on the target here for Jason Tabansky. And it's a 10. It's a fantastic performance from Jason Tabansky.
And I wound up winning by 9 points on that match. Eugenio had beat me in Chile to earn a spot. David had beat me in Czech Republic the year prior to earn his spot to go. So now there's two guys that I've shot against before that I've won. I've got another match coming up, and I'm shooting against another guy that I've known.
Semi-final action here in the men's individual W1 class. And out comes Jason Tabansky of the United States for a spot in the final. And his opponent's going to be the Italian Paolo Tonno.
Paolo had beaten me in Czech Republic as well to earn his spot to go to Paris. And this is probably one of the hardest matches because it's a semi-final match. If you win, you go to a gold medal match, which means that you're going to go home with something regardless. If you win, you go home with gold. If you lose, you're going to go home with silver. But if you lose your semi-final match, then you go for bronze. If you lose that one, you go home empty-handed.
Oh, dear. That's a miss. That is heartbreaking.
But the competition still goes on. Oh, he's got to remember now, Tonno, that he's going into a bronze medal match. Be picking his spare bow up, getting that now, getting it homed in.
What a disaster for Tonno. Last arrow here of the match for
He's
him.
all over the place.
Tabansky is into the gold medal match.
And he knows it.
Oh, he did it with 2 arrows to spare in the end. Jason Tabansky, the Americans are happy that they've got a man in the final.
I was really fortunate and just shot really well, made it through my semi-final match and got into that gold medal match.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the gold medal match. Please welcome the coaches, judges, and athletes.
And I have to shoot against one of the other guys from China. His name's Han. Han is ranked #1 in the world at the time. Great shooter. We get out to the line, and I mean, the stadium is jumping. There's 8,500 people in there. The French are cheering for the US, which was amazing to see. And we start going through the match, and it was back and forth, all the way until the last end. I went in ahead by 1 point. He shot, I shot a 10, so I'm ahead by like 3 points. He shoots again, and then I made it a little dramatic. I kind of goofed up a shot a 7, and now I'm only ahead by 1 point with 1 arrow left on both of our ends.
Last arrow for Han Guifei. Well, it's
lucky for me, he shot an 8, and then I just loaded my arrow, drew back. There's all these gnats flying in front of me, and all I could think of was, Jay, don't breathe through your mouth and eat one of these on TV. My sight's in the middle, and I just let it go and hit a 10.
Yes, he's got a 10. Jason Tabansky, gold medal at the Paralympic Games.
When I hit that 10 and heard the announcer call it out, and I knew that I won, #1 was you feel like this massive weight just disappears. For me, it was all the sacrifice that everybody around me has made, from my wife, my mom, my friends who are helping me, my coach. But the most important thing is the people that I get to represent. When I put that flag on my arm, it's for everybody, it's not just for me. You talk about a fountain or an explosion of emotions going off inside of you. That all just all came to life.
Gold medalist and Paralympic champion representing United States of America, Jason Tabansky.
Well, he's dreamed of hearing his name announced to the world like that, Jason Tabansky, and his dream has come true. These Paralympic Games, 4 excellent wins for the Texan.
Knowing that everybody's got to sing our song and watch our flag go up, that is probably the biggest, most emotional feeling in the world that you could possibly go through, is listening to a stadium sing your song. I was able to pay tribute to everybody that served, and I had a big pin with me in my quiver And it's my friend Kyle who had passed away in a helicopter crash. And Kyle had been one of my biggest supporters from the moment he found out that I got hurt to when he found out that I was doing archery and I was competing and I was doing this. He always checked in with me, and that was my way of taking Kyle with me. I also had my members bracelet with my friend Chris. Kyle, Chris, and I were really good friends. We were together in Korea for Rucker. We did a lot together. Chris had passed away in August of 2023, and you know, I had lost two of my really good friends back to back, but I knew that they were there with me. It was the best way that I could pay back their support and you know, remember them. Saluting that flag and just seeing it wave up there and just knowing that everybody's watching and that everybody's gonna hear about why I did this and that their names will be remembered and that all these people will be remembered. That just gave me a satisfaction and a peace to my soul and my heart. Something that I'll never forget and I'll keep with me for the rest of my life. Archery has given me the opportunity to travel the world, to meet people, to compete at the highest level, but it's also allowed me to put that flag back on my arm and represent the country and everybody else. I do shoot a compound bow, but in my division, we're allowed to shoot a compound or a recurve bow. I shoot in what's considered the most impaired division, so we're restricted to 45 pounds. I'm not allowed to use a peep sight on my string. I'm not allowed to use a scope with magnification. I have to use a recurve sight. I run like a 30-inch stabilizer on the front, a 12-inch stabilizer on the back, with whatever weights I need to balance my bow. I'm shooting outdoor arrows, which are skinnier than hunting arrows, what's considered a .166 diameter arrow, so they're about 4 millimeter diameter around them. Shoot at an 80 centimeter target at 50 meters is my distance. It's about the size of a Coke can.